Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump from the deep into the pool, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. Paranoid radio, set up the mood. 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 Testicles, 1, 2. Testicles. Welcome back to Paranoid Radio Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am Trebles Garcia, your humble host, and I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have an amazing episode lined up for all of you guys, but before anything, I want to remind you that the most important thing that you could do for the show today is word of mouth. Make sure you check us out at paranoidradio.com and check out Flavors of the Forest. We have Bigfoot grazing and raising a bunch of free organic garlic dust in his backyard. He's putting it in 2 little bottles and he's selling it to you through Flavors of the Forest. And today you could get 15% off on your next purchase at checkout when you use Paranoid. Check us out at paranoidradio.com, and do not forget that dropping a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have such I'm kind of nervous. I'm a little starstruck, guys. I have a very important person on the show today, and I want to give her the proper introduction, jumping in from the deep end of the pool and setting the mood. Please welcome my next special guest. She's not only an author of amazing literature, but she's also a doctor. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Natalie Atwell. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for letting me be here and letting me share a little bit today. I'm honored.
Thank you for taking the time, and I'm glad we connected. Matt, shout outs to Madison, your assistant, for such a great job. You know, she really pushed me through it, and she was very persistent and very, very patient. I don't reply as fast as I should or I want to. However, we are here today, and I want to thank God for that. Now, Dr. Natalie Atwell, please let the world know where they can find you.
They can find me at mentalwarriorconsulting.com. It's really a new journey of mine. I've been a private practice owner for many years, so really helping people in my area to battle mental health issues. And as you guys know, if you've been around any and you're not under a rock for some reason, but the needs are growing exponentially within our culture for mental health. Professionals and needs out there, there's just a lot of problems that are increasing for a lot of people. But the mental warrior side is just how do I really teach people and encourage people to battle mental issues, especially related to the spiritual aspects, because I believe they're very closely tied.
Whoa. Mental health. You know, the last episode I had about mental health was with my best friend, Tank. Shout outs to Tank. We talked about men's mental health, which is a very important topic also. And, you know, people forget, and I'm not going to make this about the male aspect of mental health only, but it's good to mention that, you know, June is one of those months that, at least in North America and parts of the world, excuse me, it's celebrated for other types of people with different belief systems, right? Not to bash on their stuff, but they forget that actually June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's extremely important. In fact, we had a shirt going around during the summer called Dudes Lives Matter. So that's very important. People check that out. Yeah, so I have a couple of questions for you. Before anything, what are some of the books that you have published? Let us know about that.
Oh, thanks. So the recent one that I published is called I Can Do Anything in the Right Pair of Shoes, Walking in Peace in a Turbulent World. And that's really my own personal story and journey. It sounds like a very feminine book because I love shoes, but actually I was born with a birth defect in my feet. So shoes have been an issue for me. But I talk about how God teaches us to put on the shoes of peace, and how if we do that, no matter what our circumstances are, no matter what's going on in the world, we can walk in peace if we're intentional about it every day. And so it was actually a tough book for me to write because it's me sharing my own story. And when you're someone who's used to hearing everybody else's stories constantly, it can be a very vulnerable thing to share your own story. But it was also just a God thing. And something that he wanted me to share. And so I'm really thankful to have been able to do that. And I'm actually currently working on my book on mental health and spiritual warfare about the weird
Ah.
influences there. So I'm currently working on that, but I do have an online course out about that currently. Just really trying to push out information about it because there are so many people who are in need for this information, I think.
On many different fronts.
Yeah.
Everything that you consume on a daily basis, it's programming. And you're talking to a conspiracy theorist here. And believe it or not, I have a strong, strong belief that they want to destroy not only every household, every nuclear family, but also the mental stability and emotional intelligence of men and women and mothers, most importantly. Now that we got the main conversation point, I have a question for you. Madison sent me a brief series of topics that we can go over. She mentioned something about the dark side of mental health. Expand on that, please.
Yeah, it's not something that a lot of people are talking about today. And that's what makes me so sad because we have seen it in my practice with people dabbling with things that they have no idea that it's actually impacting their negative health in a negative way, their mental health in a negative way. And by that, I would say things like new age practices, occultic type practices, ritualistic, or any kind of sexual practices outside of God's plan, family issues that are not dealt with. Now, those are things that lots of mental health practitioners talk about, but they don't talk about some of the things that are really rooted in possibly family involvement in occult practices and things, and how that can impact the generations beyond just the one that they're in. And even things like dangerous drugs, psychedelics, and things like that. I mean, you hear so many celebrities, so many different people pushing these things out today. And they
Hmm.
have no idea that these can impact your mental health in a negative way. And what happens often is it starts out where it looks like, oh, I feel great. These things are wonderful. It's making me feel better. It's giving me purpose. It's giving me meaning. But what they don't realize is that it might start that way. But I really believe the enemy, the devil, is really, he entices you in with a lie. And then once he hooks you, then you have to continue on this path of darkness that will just completely demolish you mentally, spiritually, and even physically.
I have something just this is a curveball question because you mentioned occult. Do you think, or according to your research, is it possible that people that practice the magic and dark arts and stuff, are they going through some type of, I know they're going through like a demonic or a spiritual attack also, or they're probably practicing spiritual attacks on other people, but are they also suffering through some type of mental disorder or illness?
That's a great question. And I would say it's possible they could be that, and then they're looking for a reason or a way out of that. And so it makes them enter into some practices that they think, hey, this might could help me with my mental health struggles. I would say that's one reason, but I would also say that it could be just people who want to know more about spirituality, but they're looking in the wrong areas and avenues of spirituality, and they're not all equal.
Hmm.
You know, that some people would say, "Oh, well, you're spiritual. That's great. You believe in whatever God you want. You can be your own God and those things." But all gods are not equal.
Hmm.
All spiritual practices, all of those things are not equal. I believe in serving the one true God who is above all. And that truth is what's really going to set people free. And the sad reality is many people are engaging in other types of spirituality that might actually be leading them into worshiping a fallen son of God, someone who's actually evil in the world.
I was speaking with, I forgot his name. I think his name is Joe from the podcast, Bump podcast, and Paranormal
Yeah,
Activity
I've
podcast.
been
And
on there. I love that. Yeah, they're
he
great.
is so awesome, dude. I love his energy. He
Yeah.
mentioned if it's not God's, it's the other dudes. And I was like, oh man, it makes a lot of sense because he is the author of lies and we live in his kingdom, and it's very important to emphasize that. The more I touch the Bible, and I see this on every single episode because people need to understand it, the more I open the Bible and look at it as a conspiracy theorist, not even searching for spirituality,
I find that the Bible is probably the most original and it has the most complex conspiracy theories of all time. It has sex, it has murder, it has incest, it has betrayal, it has loyalty, it has guidelines. So it's all there, you know. So it's very important, guys, that
Brilliant.
we look at the book and also pay attention to the lies that are being spewed all over the world and that are being ramped up. I have another question for you here. Is there anything spiritual that triggers anxiety and depression?
Absolutely. I think so. And it's funny when I thought about this question, the first thing that came to mind, to be honest with you, and this is a tough, dark topic that I deal with on a regular basis, and it's called spiritual abuse.
Mm.
So I would say it's not just those things. Yes, it could be dangerous ritualistic practices. It could be wrong types of spirituality that people are engaging in, witchcraft, all those dark things, conspiracy things, any type of occultic involvement, all those things, absolutely. But the spiritual abuse part comes when these people who are engaged in ministries that are saying, hey, we worship the one true God. We worship, the God of the Bible. And yet there's these leaders who become, the one authority in someone's life. And there's this grooming process and they become a narcissist. And to be honest, that is the majority of what I'm seeing today. So I'm just kind of giving you real world research on the ground today. And that's this spiritual type abuse. And it's where people don't feel like they can live up to whatever this leader is or whatever this person is saying to them. We can't live up to their standards. We can't do what they want us to do, or they're making us do things that we don't feel comfortable with, that our bodies are not right. I mean, you name it. And
Mm.
that leads to anxiety and depression. So I'm seeing people who are leaders in churches, and I'm like, what is happening here? But it's because the enemy again gets into these places and just twists things enough where a leader becomes a narcissist. Instead of saying, hey, let's focus on God, let's lead everything to Him, let's die to ourselves and be humble. And those things lead people to this works-based faith that is not of the Bible. And it leads to anxiety and depression of scary levels, to be honest with you. So I hate that I had to go there, but that was just what I feel like was on my heart tonight. And I needed to say because, it's not just about the things that are conspiracy, but it's about the real world things that can infiltrate any type of church, any ministry.
We have a word for that. It's called controlled opposition. And yes, it's all over the place. It's all over the place. I've seen people being controlled opposition even in the flat earth community. Not that I'm a flat earther, no. I'm
Yeah.
insane and I'm a little crazy, but even at that. Now quick testimony. My wife's aunt, she spends all day at church on Saturdays. She's part of this doctrine. I forgot the name, because I have it on the tip of my tongue. However, the guy, it's the non-domination Christian church, and I see him
Right.
running it like a cult. Now, I haven't had conversations with him. The symbology that he thinks he has a chain with a little bunch of little triangles, and I'm like, okay, wait. Like, first of all, how do you know God is coming on Saturday? Like, because he wants everybody to be there on Saturday because he's gonna sanctify you, whatever. And then he goes, "Why are you having people being forced into baptism if they're not spiritually ready? You're not connecting them with God. You're not helping them, God. You're not guiding them. You are forcing them to be part of your congregations/ cult, right?" And this is just one of the raw examples that I've also witnessed during, in my personal quarter, my personal, posse, my family members that have been introduced to that type of stuff. It's very important that we keep our eye out. Is there any other way of spiritual abuse aside from the church?
Yeah, I would say anybody that kind of you get into a relationship with that uses God or uses any type of spirituality and tries to, at some point, control or manipulate your behavior. that will be definitely something that leads into an abusive relationship. But it also can look like control manipulation. That's kind of hard to define sometimes because it might look like at first, man, they're love bombing you and you feel so good. You feel like you're part of something positive and good and you have a special gifting or, they have put a high value on your position or whatever.
Mm,
And it's a very slippery slope because there's a part of it that feels really good. It's just like an abusive relationship. It's this bittersweet thing where you have really good moments and really bad moments, and it's confusion. And I would say that that is a really good sign is if it feels confusing, if the God is not the author of confusion. Now, there's no
mm,
perfect church. You're never going to be fully comfortable. But if there is someone who is, really seeing something in you or pushing you to do things that you feel like this is just not comfortable or I can't live up to this, or they've made me feel like I'm way more special than I probably am. And they're not elevating God and saying,
mm,
you need to be humble. You need to be like no one's better than anyone else. Those are some
mm.
major red flags.
And that happens also with paramours, right? With your loved ones, people that you sometimes you marry the wrong one, and unfortunately they use. I had a conversation with a series of a panel of beautiful ladies. We called it the Women Episode Part One and Part Two, and we
Yeah.
one of them, Teresa from Spiritual Gangsters, told me she goes, "Unfortunately, I had to divorce the guy because he was using the Bible sense of saying you cannot divorce me. You have to be a submissive wife and beating up the chest and stuff, right? But it's I would call that also manipulation if he's not really protecting, professing, and providing. So it's very important that people take into consideration the people that you surround with. I always said this on the show too. You need to be careful and hashtag look this up, guys. You have to jump on the right pool. When I was in jail, there was people that would say, "Come on my car." Come on my car would be get in our car would be you have to get into a posse of people that would work out and give you a session and you get with the program with that with those 6'5" guys, and then you work out with only those people. And then you guys share energy, you guys protect each other in the yard, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because that's how it is in real life. You have strong connections with 4 or 5 people, your friends, the people that come over for Thanksgiving, et cetera, and then you guys are sharing energies, sharing stories, sharing experiences, and then influence. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing: being the right influence and not being influenced by negative entities. Now, moving forward with the conversation, before we jump in towards the ending part of the show, I want you to please take a moment again and tell people where they can find you and your books.
Yeah, thank you so much. You
Mhm.
can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, but my website, Mental Warrior Consulting, is the biggest. Like, that's where kind of the landing page of where all the podcast interviews and all my research and all the things that I'm doing to help people in this area to figure out what's really going on with mental health or spiritual warfare. Some of the things to look out. I'll talk about spiritual abuse. I'll talk about bad influences in mental health that other people aren't talking about, and lots of different things just to try to help people navigate the crazy world of mental health and spiritual warfare and really how to war in the right ways so they can find victory and they can live out their plans and purposes that God has for them.
Thank you. I have one more question, but right now you mentioned something that I want to extract from you. You said some of the other spiritual attacks that other people are using, you said not only spiritual abuse, but something else. Give me a juicy one. What is it, one of the things that you've researched on that you think people should know?
Oh, that's hard. I would say, and it depends on kind of where you live, but even people within, like good churches, good ministries, they're doing the right things. They can be tempted so easily by one thing. It could be something as simple as an Enneagram, and they have no idea that this one tool could be opening up the door for the enemy to influence their life because,
I'm
you know,
looking that up right now as you speak. Enneagram? Hmm.
yeah, the Enneagram is it's marketed as a personality profile, kind of like the Myers-Briggs or something. It kind of helps you to understand more about yourself and your personality, but it's actually heavily rooted in New Age practices, and it's
Hmm.
not a truly a psychological like personality assessment because it's not been researched. It's not designed the way that most would be to help you. And what I have found with people is that once they've taken a test like that, then they latch on to certain aspects of it. And then they say, oh, that's my personality. That's my identity. And I would say the biggest thing the enemy goes after is your identity. And so it can look like this simple personality test, but then people make excuses because they'll say, oh, I'm an Enneagram number, whatever. And it's so harmful. And so other people say, well, I'm not attacked in this way of my identity, but they have no idea that, man, he's come in such a deceptive way. And the reality is, God made us all unique. And that's a beautiful thing. No one else on the planet is like you. And that's special. But the enemy wants to attack that and he wants to go after that. And however he can do that, whether it's messing you up and telling you to kill yourself, or whether that's messing you up and telling you that you are not who you are from a sexuality standpoint, or whether that's saying, hey, this is the type of personality you are, so let's make excuses for it.
Ah, there she is. Yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to interrupt, but you hit the nail right where it needs to be.
Say
Uh,
what?
I used to have conversations with one of my coworkers back in the days at this old job, and his name is Leroy. I've had him on the show on season one. He had his own podcast, but he shut it down because he had an issue with spirituality and somebody was guiding him in the wrong way. Um, Yo, so if you're still listening to the show, Leroy, Matt, shout outs and love, we're still here. Check it out. He said one day, he's the one that put me on into podcasting. He goes, he
Oh.
goes, yo, what spirit animal are you? And I'm like, no, I don't know. Let me look it up. Look, and he sent me a website, and I started taking all the questionnaires and the tests and stuff. And it told me I was a beaver. I'm like, okay, you like building things, and you're like, okay, that's my personality. And then you start exactly how you said. You start taking in this persona. People that are thinking, oh yeah, I'm a Capricorn. I have to be doing like this and I have to act like that. And I have only these things, and I can't mess around with cancers. And they start using the signs to as a
Exactly.
guideline to live their life. And it's kind of weird. My wife is not that it's any important, but my wife is a Libra. I'm a Capricorn, and according to the stars, we don't match. Yet we have two daughters, and we're still here. So it's it's
Exactly.
kind of like, yeah, if you're meant to be, you're meant to be. And I don't think you should attach yourself to only what man has introduced as logic, because even that can be
Absolutely.
perverted, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But you would be amazed at how many people latch onto these things. There's even counselors, Christian marriage counselors who are using these Enneagram assessments in their sessions to help people understand one another better. And I'm like, this is not healthy.
Whoa. I think that's gonna hit home with some people that are listening to the show right now. Yeah, I mean, hey, this is what it is for, right?
Yeah.
I tell everybody we step on toes on the show. It's not for the faint of heart, and I never had this enneagram. I didn't even know about that thing until right now. Until I looked it up, I'm do more research on it. But that's crazy. So they're using it for marriage counseling, and then but does it work? Does it work for other people? Do you think for other people mentally they feel like, oh, okay, well, it's working for us. Why am I going to listen to paranoid, right?
Yeah. I think that to a degree, some people
Hmm.
have found success with it, but that's how the enemy gets you. It's just like any other like new age practice or something. At first, it works. Of course, the enemy is going to entice you in and say, hey, this works for a while and you're going to feel great and you're going to find understanding and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. But then eventually it stops working because it's not the truth. It's not leading you to the one who created you,
It's
who
not
knows
rooted
you
on Jesus.
intimately. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not leading
Hmm.
you to Jesus, your Savior, the one who created you and intimately knows you and says, hey, do things my way. And it's a lot more simple than actually the way these other
It
fallen G
is.
gods are telling you.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. And my boy tells me that all the time. And it's the truth. I'm one hair strand away from becoming a full Christian. I'm telling you right now, man. I don't know what's happening to me. It's transformation from within. Anyway, we have one more question
I love
for
that.
you. Tools and tips for leaders to guide and help others in the spiritual warfare.
Yeah, I would say, to me, it's following a biblical model and it's putting on the armor of God. That's what they call it in Ephesians 6. So it's putting on the helmet of salvation. So it's covering your mind, and understanding like where your salvation comes from, really taking your thoughts captive to what God says, who He says you are. So you're not being deceived by the lies of the enemy that say you need to put this in your brain, you need to put that in your brain, you need to put this in your body, you need to put that in your body. It's putting on righteousness. So you follow God's standard of righteousness and not your own ways. It's really putting on the belt of truth because truth sets people free. It's not your own truth, it's what God says, your creator says is true. It's putting on the feet of peace so you can walk out and have that defensive weapon, and that no matter where I'm at, I will have the peace of God with me. It doesn't always look like making, like being a peacemaker, but it's
Mhm.
being, or no, I would say, I'm sorry, it's not always being a peacekeeper, but it's being a peacemaker. And sometimes that involves dealing with some conflict in your life.
Mhm.
And then I would say having the shield of faith, having the sword of the Spirit, walking in the things of God will help you to battle the forces of darkness that are in the world. Knowing truth, having prayer as a part of your life, having people who come alongside you, who challenge you, who say, "Hey, what about this? Well, I don't know if you're right in this area. Well, let's talk about this." Those are really important things. And then I would say from a mental health and a spiritual perspective is don't over spiritualize things, but
Hmm.
don't also under spiritualize things. So there are some things
Right.
that are treated from a mental health perspective and they need to be treated that way. And it works and it's great. You don't have to make everything this super spiritual thing. But also don't think that it's not there. Don't think that it's not a spiritually related issue.
And I'm gonna have to add and amplify that message. Don't just pray when you're in need. Dude, pray every day, bro, even when you're winning. All right, dude, don't forget who's really providing you the ability to do this stuff, right, man? Because
Yeah.
I know people that are they're in the ground, they're miserable for X reason, and they're praying things get better, you forget to pray, bro. And then you lose it, and then you want to go back. Like, no, that's not how it works. All right, guy. You got to be consistent. You don't forget to breathe when you wake up, right? You don't forget to eat, right? Same thing with praying, dude. You got to have some communication with someone and make sure it's the creator. Now, how do you feel about medicine for mental health? This is a big
I
one.
always get that question. And I would say at times it can be very helpful.
Okay.
I would say it's never something that should be the first line of defense. But
Hmm.
I would look at it like your brain is just like your liver. It's a part of your body. And there are things that you can do from a dietary standpoint, from an exercise standpoint, that can be really good for your liver, just like it can be good for your brain. But at times you need medicine to help. So
That's
I think
I'm sorry.
at
Go ahead.
time, and again, I don't think it should be a crutch. And I think it should be in combination with therapy and with other really healthy practices. But I don't think that it's something that you should never say it's not helpful.
Very, very impactful words, especially because here we bash pharmaceutical companies. At least on the show, we bash it pretty hard. And, hey, who am I to judge? Peter rejected Jesus Christ 3 times. Who am I to judge, right? However, I always tell people this in the show. If you're happy with what you're following and you have peace in your heart, do it. And this is why the show has all types of different topics and all types of perspectives and engaging conversations, because you need to analyze and critically think and see things how for what they are, and not just be following trends. Set the bar, be the bar. Now, on our way out, doctor, please let the world know where they can find you one more time.
I would say mentalwarriorconsulting.com. We'll have it in the show notes, hopefully. And at Dr. Natalie Atwell or at Mental Warrior Consulting, on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me. It's pretty easy to find me, Natalie Atwell. I'm glad to help anybody with any questions that they have. I love to engage in these conversations because I think they matter. And the people who are interested in conspiracy theories are my people. I love them. So
I'm gonna connect you with a couple of people. Man, shout outs to Catalyst Jones from the White Rabbit podcast. I'm gonna connect you with him. You gotta get
thank
in contact
you.
with him. He's huge. If you think we have a lot of following, that guy has a paywall. He's making bank. He's the walking dream of a conspiracy theorist podcaster, you know? And I'm also gonna connect you with Janet from the Probo Nation podcast. She is a beautiful soul and one of my best friends.
You.
So you guys getting in contact. And then you could also spread your message there and let them know let the world know and their audience know where they can find you and your .com and all your product, your literature. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Paranoid Radio Podcast. I want to thank the Lord one more time and make sure you check us out at paranoidradio.com. Check out Natalie, Dr. Natalie Atwell on Instagram, description on the show underneath. And also, do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Peace out.
Paranoid Radio.